Homer is far and away the most prolific criminal Springfield has ever seen, but nobody seems to be paying attention to him. We're gonna start with Homer's worst moment. Not only did he drink and drive, he forced his wife to take the fall. It's Codependence Day. So Homer, Bart, and Lisa go to see the latest Cosmic Wars flick, The Gathering Shadow. And no surprise, it sucks. It's full of boring-ass Senate meetings and cringy racial stereotypes. It's lazy and boring, and Bart and Lisa are pissed. So Marge suggests they write a letter to Randall Curtis, the guy behind Cosmic Wars. 2 weeks later, Curtis replies with a bunch of Jim Jam Bonks merch, completely ignoring their complaints, which just makes the kids even more furious. But hey, at least they have some new stuff they'll never use. Naturally, the Simpsons decide to head out to California and confront Curtis. Homer and Marge hit up a bunch of wineries while Bart and Lisa head to the Cosmic Wars Ranch, which used to be the city of Fresno. Go figure. They meet Curtis and tell him to his face that his new movies blow. Curtis obviously doesn't like hearing that, especially when Lisa calls out his lazy over-reliance on fancy tech instead of good storytelling. They convince him to get back to what made the original movies great, and he half-heartedly agrees, riding off on a tauntaun to rent some inspiration from a video store. So basically, he learned nothing. Meanwhile, Homer and Marge are getting absolutely trashed on wine. And when the kids meet back up with them, they're drunk enough to toss Curtis around like a football, which I'm pretty sure is assault, which is a crime, so there's that. Back home in Springfield, Homer and Marge hit Moe's Tavern for more wine. Moe cracks open a bottle of Chateau Latour from 1886, not realizing it's priceless. When he figures it out, he cries and wipes his eyes with a lost Shakespeare play. Homer and Marge go on a full bender for days, but after Marge gets one hell of a hangover, she tells Homer they need to cut it out. He agrees until they hit Oktoberfest. Marge tries to stay sober, but gives in and gets hammered. She has no impulse control. Homer, also drunk as hell, tries driving them home and flips the car. An illegal act, obviously. To dodge an arrest, Homer does the single worst and most unforgivable thing he has ever done. He frames Marge as the driver. She gets arrested and Homer bails her out. Barney suggests Marge should go check into rehab, and while she's there, Homer leaves the kids with Flanders. When Homer visits her, he confesses to setting her up, and she's rightfully pissed. Actually, she's much nicer than most of us would be. But in the end, the other patients help her realize she likes being with Homer more than drinking. So she forgives him and heads home. That's a horrible, horrible lesson for this whole episode. Don't drink and drive. Drink driving is one of the many serious crimes that Homer somehow manages to get away with. And in Springfield, it's easy to get away with basically any crime. Case in point, Homer helping Moe commit insurance fraud in Dumbbell indemnity. So it all starts with Homer catching Bart and Lisa having some kind of snowball fight, but with ice cream scoops, which just seems like the stupidest idea. He reminds them Marge said that they need to take a bath, but Bart blows him off, saying Marge says a lot of things. Lisa chimes in that they can't take a bath anyway because the water heater's busted. Well, obviously, Homer decides he's gonna be the one to fix it, which of course means beating the thing with a bunch of tools. What else is he gonna do? Read a book? Come on. Instead of fixing it, he makes the heater explode, turning the whole damn house into a water park and flooding half the place. Homer, knowing Marge is gonna lose her mind, bails to Moe's Tavern to avoid her wrath, the go-to solution for any problem in Homer's world. But then Homer finds out Moe hasn't had a date in 4 years, which honestly isn't surprising. Feeling bad for the guy, Homer takes him to a nightclub to meet women, and it's an absolute frickin' train wreck. Nobody wants to be with Moe, but just as he's about to give up, a woman named Renee shows up. She's honestly just nice to him. We're talking basic human dignity, and Moe, being the sad sack he is, falls head over heels for her. So Moe and Renee start dating, but Moe's trying way too hard to impress her, blowing through all his cash like there's no tomorrow. He ends up maxing out his credit cards, leaving him with one hell of a debt. So he comes up with a stupid plan: commit insurance fraud. He ropes Homer into it, telling him to dump his car on some train wrecks so it'll get smashed up and he can claim the money. But Homer screws the whole thing up. Instead of leaving the car, he gets distracted by a drive-in movie and misses the train entirely. But damn it, he has to finish the job. When he finally tries to destroy the car, he drives it off a cliff into the water, right in front of a police charity cruise. He gets busted for Grand Theft Auto, which is honestly the best way it could have ended. Homer ends up in jail, and Moe, being the god-awful friend he is, almost bails him out, only to get distracted by the idea of a Hawaiian vacation with Renee. Admittedly, that is more appealing than unleashing Homer on the world. Eventually, Moe's guilt kicks in, and he confesses the whole insurance scam to Renee, which is fine, because at least he told the truth. But when he suggests breaking Homer out of jail, she's had enough and dumps him. Again, I get it, man. Moe's big plan to burn down his bar for more insurance money goes to hell when he drops the match too early, setting the whole place on fire. Meanwhile, Homer escapes from jail and shows up to kick Moe's ass, but both end up passing out from smoke inhalation. Thankfully, Barney stumbles out of the bathroom and saves them, and the beer, of course, but Moe's bar is toast. In the end, Homer tells Moe that he can run the bar out of his house until it's rebuilt. So at least these two addicts are together again. Because if there's ever a problem, alcohol will always bring people together, which is why it's so difficult when it's taken away. Like in Homer versus the 18th Amendment, an episode where he illegally starts a bootlegging booze empire. So it's St. Patrick's Day, and Springfield's losing its damn mind with beer everywhere. Bart, being the little dumbass he is, totally forgets and rocks up to school without a shred of green. And every kid there just assaults the hell out of him with pinches. Well, that could have been much, much worse. Meanwhile, Moe's Tavern is packed because it's the busiest drinking day of the year. And Moe decides to make as much as he can by throwing out all the designated drivers. Can't fault that one, actually. Good business move. At the holiday parade, Bart buys some stupid plastic horn, and when a Duff beer float sprays free booze, he ends up drinking it all through the horn. So Bart's now a drunk 10-year-old, and Springfield freaks the hell out. Homer watches this whole mess on TV, and of course, Marge lays down the law. No more beer. For a day, she's a mom, she's not a monster. But across town, a group of women complain to the mayor that they should ban all brands of alcohol. And Quimby likes women and their bodies far too much to say no. Next thing you know, Springfield digs up some 200-year-old prohibition law, and suddenly booze is illegal. Cue all the town's drunks literally fainting from withdrawal symptoms. And shock, but mostly the withdrawal symptoms, the cops start dumping barrels of beer at the landfill. Duff tries to sell some weak-ass Duff Zero because they think people drink it for the taste for some reason. And Moe turns his bar into a speakeasy behind a fake pet shop. But Homer isn't gonna sit back and let the town go dry. Nah, he gets into bootlegging. He's sneaking out at night with Bart, reclaiming beer from the landfill, and sending it to Moe's by hiding it inside bowling balls. The guy's got an underground racket going on, pouring booze and raking in cash like a kingpin. He's building a Breaking Bad type empire. Even Marge, who usually hates his BS, is like, damn, that's actually kind of brilliant. It's such a big success that Homer becomes known as the Beer Baron. Probably the only cool name Homer will ever get, honestly. Everybody else just makes fat jokes, but the authorities have sent Rex Banner, some no-nonsense hard-ass, to clean up the town and catch the Beer Baron. Springfield needs to be dry, damn it. However, Homer's outsmarting him left and right, making it impossible to clamp down on the booze. Still, Homer starts running low on beer, so he tries making his own hard liquor, blowing up his house in the process. Bet that never happens at the Duff factory. Finally, Homer gets caught, but the town discovers the prohibition law was repealed like 199 years ago. Well, duh. It's one of the stupidest laws Springfield has ever enacted. Everyone's back to drinking in no time, and Homer toasts to booze, calling it the cause of and solution to all of life's problems. No truer words have ever been spoken. Not sober anyway. But I guess you don't have to be sober to have something intelligent to share with the world. You could just launch a class and share all of your wife's most intimate personal secrets. It's Secrets of a Successful Marriage. So Homer's playing poker at Lenny's house with the guys, and true to form, he totally screws up. He folds with a damn straight flush. Like, seriously? Dude, is this your first time playing? Moe's about to lose his mind, but Carl's like, come on, man, it's Homer. The guy's slow. Yeah, Carl, but a straight flush? Homer takes until midnight to even process what happened. And when he finally gets it, Lenny just straight up tells him to get the hell out of his house. It's like Homer went into a card-induced coma. Anyway, Homer decides he's gonna teach a class or something to boost his ego and show how smart he is. So he shows up at his adult learning center. The guy running the place sees that Homer's married and suggests he teach a class on the secrets of a successful marriage. Ha, of all the people to teach that class, you pick Homer? Homer, with zero clue what the hell he's doing, starts blabbing about his marriage with Marge. Of course, he spills way too many messy personal details because honestly, he doesn't have any other material. And anything else he can talk about will probably reflect badly on him. Marge finds out he's been airing their dirty laundry and makes him swear he'll knock it off. But promises mean nothing to Homer, who can't resist. His students only care about the juicy gossip, so he keeps spilling secrets. And they get worse, if anything. He even invites the whole class over for dinner to see his perfect marriage, a massive breach of their privacy which ends in Marge kicking everyone, including Homer, out of the house. Now Homer's living in the treehouse like some sad, broken down hobo. He's so far gone that he makes a fake Marge out of a plant and starts losing his mind. More than usual anyway. Meanwhile, Moe hears about the breakup and immediately swoops in, trying to get with Marge because, of course, Moe's a dirtbag like that. If anything, this is the most romantic and sensitive he's ever been. Homer, realizing he's basically a mess without Marge, tries one last desperate move. He tells her the one thing he can offer that no one else can: complete and total dependence. Yeah, that's right, he's a walking disaster without her. I mean, we all knew it, but Homer sees this as a good romantic thing for some reason. Moe sees the writing on the wall and bolts, and Marge, probably out of pity more than anything, takes Homer back. The next morning, Moe still tries to shoot a shot, asking Marge through the window if she's really happy. But when he sees Homer, he freaks out and runs for it. Probably a good idea, jerk. After all, there's no way of knowing how far Homer will go to protect the things that matter to him. Just look at the episode Donnie Fatso, which sees Homer embracing the mafia life just to avoid having to pay for his crime of bribing an official. So Homer and Marge wake up on New Year's Day, completely hungover from their wild party the night before. Homer stumbles outside to take out the trash when Chief Wiggum, Eddie, and Lou roll up and start slapping him with a ton of ridiculous fines. Because, of course, Springfield passed a bunch of money-grabbing laws while everyone was too drunk to notice. Okay, you know what? I respect that kind of ingenious scamming of your residents. Homer's pissed but decides to take Moe's brilliant advice and bribe a city official to get rid of the fines. He drops a sack of cash on the guy's desk, thinking he's being slick. But he gets arrested immediately. What a moron. You literally had one job, bro, and it wasn't to publicize your crime. Homer's thrown in jail for 10 years, but Wiggum, feeling kinda bad for the guy, hooks him up with an FBI agent who offers Homer a deal: go undercover in prison and take down Fat Tony, who's locked up with his goons. In exchange, Homer gets his sentence reduced. Homer's dumb enough to agree, even though this will almost definitely end in his death. Thanks to some setup by the FBI, Homer gets in good with Fat Tony, and soon Tony busts them all out of prison. Homer's first assignment: burn down Moe's tavern. All because Moe mouthed off to Fat Tony over the phone. But when Homer shows up, it turns out Moe's already torched the place himself for insurance money. Damn, Moe really only has one thought in his head, huh? Fat Tony's impressed and welcomes Homer into the mob. Biggest mistake of your life, Tony. Everything's going great until their latest scheme: smuggling weapons. Hit some snacks. Then the real kicker comes when Fat Tony finds out Homer's been an FBI snitch. Tony's heart literally breaks from the betrayal, and he keels over, dead on the spot. Well, Homer killing a mobster was not what I expected from this video, but here we are. Meanwhile, Marge is freaking out because she has no clue where Homer is or why he's vanished. When Homer finally shows up with his prison sentence wiped clean, she's relieved. But Homer's all guilt-ridden about killing Fat Tony. He had so many murders left to commit. Such a waste of criminal life. He visits Tony's grave to apologize, but gets kidnapped by Fit Tony, Fat Tony's cousin, who's ready to murder him for revenge. But after Homer tells Fit Tony about the good times he had with Fat Tony, the guy softens up and lets him live. Fit Tony ends up eating his feelings, gets fat as hell, and becomes the new Fat Tony, looking exactly like the old one. Same mob, same problems, but I guess nobody in Springfield is capable of learning from their mistakes, and Homer is no exception. The episode Homer vs. Lisa and the Eighth Commandment shows us that over and over, as Homer breaks the law despite warnings from his own daughter. Alright, so we kick things off way back in 1200 BC, where Homer the thief, which is just the Homer we know but with a beard, is out there stealing crap. Moses shows up with the 10 Commandments, and when Homer hears the "thou shalt not steal" bit, he's like, dope. But surprise, it's all just a dream, and Homer wakes up in his hammock, being lazy as usual. In hindsight, it did seem out of character for Homer to do something. Now Homer sees good old Ned Flanders, the human doormat, turn down an illegal cable hookup. But Homer? Oh hell no. He chases down the cable guy like he's offering free donuts, and gets himself hooked up to all the channels without paying a damn cent. Homer's basically like a kid in a candy store, watching all the illegal TV he can handle, dragging the whole family into it. There's no fun in breaking the law alone, after all. But then Lisa, being the one with a conscience, starts freaking out about hell after a Sunday school lesson about the 10 Commandments. She's especially wound up about the whole "thou shalt not steal" thing, and is pretty sure her dad stealing cable is a one-way ticket to eternal damnation. Ha, listen Lisa, he's done many worse things. Homer, of course, couldn't give less of a damn about his soul. He's too busy planning a giant party to watch a big pay-per-view fight on a stolen cable. He invites everyone from his work buddies to Moe, Barney, and even Mr. Burns, because why not add a little bit of tension to the party? Bart, the little entrepreneur, finds a way to make money off this whole thing, charging neighborhood kids to watch the adult channels he's found. It's all chaos, but Lisa's over in the corner having a moral crisis because her dad's a thief, and she's scared they're all gonna burn in hell. She's not that bothered about Bart though, because, well, lost cause. Eventually, Lisa's guilt trip starts gnawing at Homer's brain. He doesn't really care about being a good person. It's way too late for that. He just doesn't want his daughter to hate him. So while the big fight's about to start, Homer decides to sit out and join Lisa, Marge, and Maggie on the moral high ground. Bart tries to sneak back in and watch, but Homer shuts that down fast. They're all gonna be miserable together, damn it. Finally, Homer gets so worked up by Lisa's guilt that he decides to cut the cable himself. Of course, being Homer, he screws it up and ends up knocking out the electricity in all of Springfield before finally cutting the right wire. The screen goes to static, meaning that he's even taken out our feed, which honestly might be the biggest reason for him to go to jail in this entire video. I mean, leave us out of it, but go ahead and con anybody else if you want to. Actually, Homer shows a great willingness to con everybody else in the episode The Great Money Caper, where he, Bart, and even Grandpa just scam everybody. So it all kicks off with the Simpsons at some fancy dinner theater. Bart buys a magic kit, and on the way home, out of nowhere, a sturgeon falls from the sky and smashes up the family car. Homer's pissed, obviously, and Bart, trying to be a good kid for once, offers to pay for the damage with money he'll make from his little magic act. Who does he think he is? I can't think of any famous magicians, actually. Anyway, the point is, it's not enough. Homer, ever the role model parent, gets so annoyed that he straight up ditches Bart, forcing him to walk home. So there's another crime on his rap sheet. Bart's on his own now, but people feel sorry for him and give him cash to get a taxi. This gives Homer a brilliant, totally moral idea. Why not scam people? He really is a great parent in this episode, isn't he? So Homer and Bart dive headfirst into grifting, scamming folks out of money. And even when they've got enough cash to fix the car, they keep going because, well, it's easy money and Homer loves that hustle. Probably the only work he ever seems to enjoy is when he's conning people. Grandpa gets in on the action too, helping them con his retirement home. But things take a turn when some FBI dude shows up and arrests Homer and Bart. At the station, the guy lets them turn themselves in, but surprise, he's a scam artist himself. If only they weren't idiots, they could have seen this coming. He steals Homer's car and money they con from the old folks, leaving Homer and Bart scrambling. Naturally, Homer lies to the cops, blaming some random foreign loner with wild bushy hair, and bam! Groundskeeper Willie gets arrested. Okay, that is just straight up bad luck. At the trial, Homer's lawyer pushes him to finger Willie as the car thief. And when Willie's convicted, the guy flips out. He goes full berserk and shoots Skinner. Wait, he does what now? Actually, no he doesn't. Turns out the whole trial was an elaborate trap to make Homer confess to being a con artist. Skinner's shooting was just a setup. Marge helped fake the bullet wound. Grandpa was the judge in a mask, and the car thief, an actor named Devin Bradley. Okay, that's a lot to take in. So it turns out that everyone except Willie was in on it. The whole damn courthouse turns out to be a giant prank, and the episode wraps up with Otto bursting in, yelling, "Surf's up," as everyone out of nowhere goes surfing. Look, I don't understand it either, but we'll just roll with it. I guess we just have to accept that the real point is Homer has learned his lesson. No more scamming. But nobody said anything about shooting people, which is his new obsession in the Cartridge family. So the Simpsons head to a soccer match between Mexico and Portugal. And it's boring as hell. Way more than anyone could have expected. The crowd's not feeling it, and instead of enjoying the game, things spiral into a full-blown riot. The whole town's caught up in the chaos, and then groundskeeper Willie and his crazy Scottish pals show up, thinking the riot's too tame and crank it up a notch. Nothing like a little violence to celebrate a sucky soccer game. Naturally, all of Springfield loses its collective mind and is convinced they're not safe. Homer, being the cheap guy he is, decides he doesn't want to shell out $500 for a home security system. So what does he do? He rigs up his own half-assed alarm system, and of course, it's useless. He may as well have just done absolutely nothing, and it probably would have worked out better. His bright idea to keep his family safe? Get a gun. Yup, sounds American to me. After a brutal 5-day waiting period, Homer finally gets his revolver and gleefully surprises Marge with it. She's absolutely horrified. Like, who wouldn't be? Homer Simpson should not have a weapon. Homer, though, is dead set on keeping it. Pulling that whole "it's in the Constitution" crap, even though Lisa tries to set him straight by noting that the meaning has changed since then. Homer drags Marge to a National Rifle Association meeting to convince her it's all cool, but she's not buying it. Meanwhile, Homer treats the gun like it's a toy. He's blasting bullets at the Quickie Mart and shooting dinner plates with Bart. Marge understandably loses her mind after a close call at the dinner table and begs Homer to get rid of the gun. Homer promises he will, but he chooses to hide it in the fridge. Best place to hide a gun, right? Of course, Bart and Milhouse find it and start playing William Tell in the kitchen. Marge catches them just in time and gives Homer an ultimatum: lose the gun or she and the kids are out. Now, she's tried this kind of thing before, and it backfired, so bold to do it when he has a gun, Marge. With Marge and the kids at a motel, Homer hosts an NRA meeting at home, but gets kicked out when he's too reckless even for them. Homer tracks his family down at the motel to make up, but then Snake shows up, robbing the place. It cannot be worse timing. Homer pulls out the gun he swore he ditched, but it's empty. The NRA arrives and saves the day. Homer apologizes to Marge, explaining that the gun made him feel cool, but encouraging her to throw it away. By the end, Marge quietly keeps the gun herself because it makes her feel badass. Hypocrite. But we'll deal with Marge another time. Right now, we have to focus on Homer's love of criminality, which just so happens to feature his mother, Mona. Mother Simpson introduces Homer's mom, and, well, it's easy to see where he gets his criminal instincts from. Alright, so Mr. Burns, being the heartless jerk he is, forces all of his workers to clean up a highway on Saturday. Everyone's pissed, and Burns only shows up for a damn photo op before leaving them to suffer. Homer, however, doesn't show up. Instead, he fakes his own death. Yeah, this guy chucks a dummy of himself off of a cliff to make it look like he got sucked into a turbine, so he can blow off work and have a fun day with the fam. Look man, this seems like a bad idea to me. But Homer's dumbass plan goes too well, and by the next day, the entire town thinks he's dead. Marge starts getting all these "sorry for your loss" messages, and Patty and Selma show up with a tombstone ready to celebrate Homer kicking the bucket. They've been holding on to it since Marge's wedding. Frickin' savage. When the house loses power because it's still in Homer's name, Marge has had enough and forces Homer to fix his so-called death. So Homer heads to the Hall of Records to clear things up. While there, he notices his mom is listed as alive, only he thought she was dead. So he heads to what he thinks is her grave, only to find out it's Walt Whitman's. But right nearby is his grave, thanks to Patty and Selma. And while he's falling into it, boom, his mom Mona shows up. After some confusion, they have an emotional reunion. Cause, you know, she hasn't seen him in like 27 years. Homer brings her home, which throws everyone for a loop. Bart's only excited about all the missed Christmas presents, and Mona bonds with Lisa because they're both intellectual and socially conscious. But it turns out Mona's got a shady past. When a cop car rolls by, she freaks out and hides, making Lisa suspicious. Bart digs through her purse and finds multiple driver's licenses with fake names. So the whole family confronts her, threatening to call the cops. Even if she is related to them, the Simpsons have enough crimes to cover up. So Mona spills the beans. Back in the 60s, she became a hippie activist after being inspired by Joe Namath's hair. Yup, and she helped blow up a germ warfare lab owned by Mr. Burns. She had to go into hiding after Burns snitched on her, leaving Homer behind to keep him safe. And now he's harboring a fugitive, a crime. The family gets it now, but Homer's still bummed she didn't reach out. Turns out she sent him packages, but they were never delivered because he didn't tip the mailman at Christmas. Lesson learned there. They hit the post office to pick up those lost packages, but of course, Mr. Burns spots her and rats her out to the FBI. Mona and Homer manage to escape thanks to Chief Wiggum, who owes Mona for curing his asthma back in the day. But sadly, she has to go on the run again, leaving Homer heartbroken. The episode ends with Mona driving off, Homer waving at the stars like a sap, and the whole thing just hurts because, despite all of his screw-ups, Homer's just a guy who wants his mom around. But of course, she's not gonna be around forever. He has to learn to stand on his own 2 feet, which is why Homer goes to college. But when he does, all he seems to learn is how to commit crimes from a 1980s college movie. So inspectors from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission show up at the plant to see if everyone working there knows what the hell they're doing. Smithers is sweating bullets because he knows Homer and the other 2 idiots on staff would totally tank this evaluation. So he sticks him up in the basement to babysit a bee while the grown-ups handle the real work. Foolproof plan, Smithers, but Homer immediately breaks the bee jar, forcing him to chase the bee through the plant until he pops up right outside the inspector's van. And just at that moment, the bee stings him right in the ass. So now Homer's busted, and he's got to participate in the evaluation. Oh, and he has a big ass. So 3 problems. Naturally, Homer manages to create a meltdown in a simulator van that doesn't even have nuclear materials in it, which is actually kind of impressive. Mr. Burns tries to bribe his way out of this mess, but the inspectors aren't buying it. They insist that Homer needs a degree in nuclear physics, or it's lights out for the whole plant. Burns pulls some strings and gets Homer into Springfield University. Homer, now convinced he's living in some college movie fantasy, immediately decides it's his job to mess with nerds and take on the overbearing dean. Except the dean, Bobby Peterson, is some chill bass-playing dude who's nothing like Homer expected. Homer still hates him, of course. The movies tell him to. Instead of focusing on passing his classes, Homer starts causing chaos. He screws up a physics class so badly that he nearly blows up the place. The dean gives Homer tutoring with a bunch of stereotypical nerds, Benjamin, Doug, and Gary. Homer, trying to teach them to live a little, gets them all to kidnap the pig mascot, Sir Oinks-a-Lot, for fun. Pretty sure that's a crime, actually. Pignapping. They get the pig hammered, and naturally the nerds get caught by the dean. They're expelled thanks to the pig's powerful friends. Homer, he walks away totally unscathed. I mean, of course he does. He just gets away with everything. Feeling kinda guilty, Homer invites the nerds to live at his place. That goes about as well as you'd expect. They drive the family nuts with their nerdy antics. Eventually, everyone's had enough. Homer cooks up a half-assed plan to save the nerds by staging a fake accident where they heroically save the dean's life. Except they completely screw it up, and Homer ends up running the dean over. I mean, it could not have gone worse unless Homer shot the guy. But because this guy's so chill, he forgives them and lets the nerds back into school. Finally, it's time for Homer's nuclear physics final. And he bombs. The nerds hack the system to give him an A, but Marge steps in and forces Homer to retake the class properly. He does eventually pass, but not without squeezing in a bunch of frat boy shenanigans. Somehow Homer graduates, and because it's Homer, he can't just graduate like a normal person. He flashes the entire crowd while getting his diploma. I mean, at least he graduated, I guess. Little victories. And with that diploma, it gives Homer a pretty good shot at making the big bucks. Or he could just resort to good old-fashioned tax fraud, as he does in The Trouble with Trillions. So it's New Year's, Springfield's going nuts, and Ned Flanders is up at the crack of dawn doing his taxes like the uptight little dweeb he is. The guy literally gets up on January frickin' 1st to file everything, complete with mints in the envelope. Kiss ass. Fast forward to April 15th, and the rest of Springfield is in total chaos at the post office, trying to file their taxes last minute. You got everyone there scrambling like idiots. Meanwhile, at Casa Simpson, Homer is sitting all smug, making fun of everyone rushing to get their taxes done. he took care of his a year ago. But of course this moron doesn't realize he's talking about last year's taxes. Lisa tells him he's gotta pay this year, and Homer has that classic dumbass "oh no" moment he has every episode. Marge naturally is pissed because she literally put the taxes in his to-do pile, which, shocker, Homer didn't even know existed, despite it being right next to him, under his damn beer can. If only he thought to look when he drank. Now, with less than an hour before the deadline, Homer panics and scribbles down a bunch of obviously fraudulent crap on his tax forms. He even claims it's not illegal if he didn't hear Marge telling him not to do it. It's a recipe for a massive, massive audit, not to mention a major crime. He speeds to the post office, causing a crash along the way, stopping for a hot dog because priorities, and barely makes it before they close. But Homer's fat-ass envelope doesn't end up in the normal pile. Nope, it lands in the severe audit bin. If only you had some kind of smart-ass narrator who could have warned you about that, huh? The IRS catches his fraud and Homer gets dragged in by the feds. Desperate to avoid jail, he agrees to become an informant and rats out his co-worker Charlie, who's plotting to take down the government. Sure, seems like a good idea. Then the FBI ropes Homer into a bigger scheme involving Mr. Burns and a $1 trillion bill that's been missing since 1945. They send Homer to find it, but naturally, Homer screws things up, gets charmed by Burns' anti-government rant, and knocks out the agents. Burns, Smithers, and Homer flee to Cuba, only to get played by Castro when Burns hands over the $1 trillion bill. The episode ends with the three of them floating on a raft back to the US, with Burns planning to bribe the jury and Homer saluting, "God bless America," like the clueless idiot he is. To be fair, tax fraud is a great American tradition, so I guess so.